Well, this car is sold. It's sold on Bring a Trailer. You can go and look it up there if you want to see what the results were. But the buyer wanted it on the stock wheels, so the Empires are off. And I'm gonna pull the E38 in here and put up the front end because it's got a shimmy at 55 miles an hour. It might just be out of balance wheels, though the seller thought it might be front end suspension. So I want to check the front end. I'm gonna put the Empires on there on the E38. See how they look. Those are E32, E34 fitment tires. Those are 26 inches in overall diameter. The tires on the E38 are 27. So it's probably gonna look a little weird, but I know that those are straight. So if I put those on the front end and the shimmy goes away, I'll know it's wheels. But obviously we're gonna look at the front end too. So I'm gonna move the Suburban and play some musical cars here and get to work. I just wanted to marvel for a minute at what a wonderfully old man-esque this car is. It'll be really funny to see if the Empires make it look any better or if it's totally just nah. I mean, I know Empires came on the Sport 740i's, but I mean, this thing, you know, with the black lowers, I mean, obviously it's missing door trim and I'll replace that and stuff, but it's just such an old man car. So I'm excited to see how it looks. This thing's also just filthy. It is filthy. It's clean though, underneath. Also, I forgot to mention, I gotta deal with this. Oh, that is just terrible. That drives me crazy. Well, I'm liking what I'm seeing so far. Looks like all the wheels have relatively new lugs and maybe new hubs too. So far I only have one rear wheel off. Nice looking lugs. And maybe a new bearing in there. Rotor doesn't seem bad. Can't even see the pad in there. There's really nothing left. So definitely it should get pads. I'll have to measure the rotors, but they don't feel bad. But if they're cheap, I'll just do them too. Also looking in here, the strut looks pretty recent. Strut looks pretty recent, and when I was jacking it up, it sounded like the squeak was down here somewhere in the lower trailing arm, because this looks pretty new too. I mean, so far, I'm pretty happy with what I'm seeing in here. My plan is I'm gonna grease or spray some grease into as many of these rubber bushings as I can and then work the jack a little bit, see if that makes a difference. But so far, I'm actually pretty happy with what I'm seeing. I was expecting the rear suspension to be just totally blown, but I'd say that looks relatively recent. This car also intermittently, or at least in the winter when it was wet underneath, would throw an ABS light and would cause some other funky issues. So I'm wondering if it's the wheel speed sensor, which I'm assuming is this guy, because it doesn't look like it's in great shape. So maybe that was getting wet and causing the fault. So probably get a wheel speed sensor too. Well, I just put on the rear Empires and greased up all the bushings that I could get my hands on. It made a ton of noise when I was jacking it back up. Nothing yet, so that seems pretty good. Man, this thing is so nice underneath. I love rust-free cars. All right, so quick look at the fronts. Again, rotors look really nice, really no lip. These actually have pretty thick pads. I usually do the Akebono Euro pads. They're super low dust, they bite very well. The rears obviously need pads. Might throw some new fronts on them just so they're all new at the same time, but I think I might leave the rotors. They look really good. But everything else in here looks really good too. While I was in here, I just wanted to check a couple of things. The previous owner said she had all the ignition coils and spark plugs replaced. And it looks like she did. Got a whole bunch of pretty new looking Bosch units, which is cool because these things are like 50 bucks a pop, I think. Or 70 or 80, something like that. They're expensive. And yeah, it should definitely replace the plugs. Nice NGKs, QUPs. I probably would have gone BKR 6EKs. Tiny bit of oil on them. Overall, looks pretty clean in there. Really no oil on the boots. So, I mean, maybe in the future I'd do valve cover gaskets, but it's definitely not immediately necessary. But got the Empires on. I'll let the suspension settle. I'll pull it out, give it a wash, and we'll see how it looks. Well, it's definitely not bad. You know, the tires are a tiny bit too small. First time I've seen it clean though. Noticed a whole bunch of scratches, so that's great. Definitely needs a paint polish. We'll get that at some point. Color looks really good though. Look at that. Not too bad. And actually, I'm pretty surprised. It looks a lot better than I thought it was going to. So anyway, so this video is really just a point of documenting some things I hadn't seen yet on the car and going through and making a parts list and stuff. I'm gonna get some trunk shocks, hood shocks, a couple other things, and do another video maybe on installing them, but that's it for now.
Yeah, it gets heavy, huh?
Yeah. On this gravel. I got it. So, that very night, after working on it, putting on the M-Pars, getting those squeaks taken care of, the thing was driving great, and all of a sudden, no crank, no start situation. Posted about it on the E38 page, and a lot of guys thought it was EWS. The security system, I failed to mention that this is an early car, so it doesn't have EWS. So looking like it is the starter. It's just weird. It was a weird situation. Just hasn't acted like any starter failure I've ever had. But apparently, I mean, obviously I'm gonna put the car up and jump the starter at the starter, but apparently you can do it from the Diag port as well. So I'm gonna try that just for shits and grins. So the ignition is on, as you can hear. And apparently it's 11 and 14 for the starter. I get sparks, but I got no starter. So I got the car up, I was just looking at the starter. Starter looks relatively new, I'll get under there in a second, but just wanted to show you, it is working now. So just a little touch right here, and you get starter. 11 and 14, I learned that on the E38 Facebook page from a couple nice guys, so pretty cool. So there's the starter, it looks relatively new. I can't tell what brand it is. The connection, that connection looks pretty gross. So I have the battery disconnected. I'm just gonna pull off all the connectors and clean them up. And hopefully that's it, or it's just a starter that's starting to fail. And I'll have to put one in it and it'll strand me again and we'll do this all over again. So that's about it for now. All right, so I just finished putting everything back together. I cleaned every contact and the back of every nut, the fronts of all the backing nuts. Everything here was loose. The terminals were loose, the nuts were loose, the front and the back ones. Just crazy. So hopefully that's the issue and it's not just a starter that's starting to die. But I cleaned all the contacts, everything was loose, everything's nice and snug now. So hopefully that's it. So I'm gonna put it down and give it a start. So before I start this thing up, I'm doing one other thing. Obviously I had the battery disconnected because I was working on the starter. This is a hard DME reset. You disconnect both the terminals for the car, positive and negative, and you connect them together. And you let it sit for about 15 minutes. As far as I know, this only works for OBD1 cars. Not sure about OBD2. I've done it for other E34s, E32s. Basically, it's a hard way to just reset car to factory settings. The reason for it is the transmission shifts in a way that I think it's just sort of time for reset. Every now and again, it doesn't slip or jerk or slam or anything like that, but every now and again you get on the highway and it holds fourth gear and doesn't go into lockup, or fifth gear I should say. It'll sit at 80 at 3,000 RPM until it decides to click down to about 2,500 RPM. So I have a feeling this should help and get it sort of shifting a little bit better. So we'll take a look, but overall things pretty great. I think soon, I ordered a bunch of parts yesterday, about $250 worth of parts from FCP Euro, and we'll start working on this thing, and at some point we'll polish the paint. Ordered some touch-up paint for little chips and stuff, but things definitely coming along. What are you doing? All right, let's see if she starts up. Wow. Cool. I guess hopefully that's it. I'm just gonna have to drive it around and see if it keeps starting. And I can tell you the shimmy's also gone at 55, so those old wheels are just out of balance. Hopefully not bent. I haven't really looked at them. I'll clean them up at some point. But that's it for now. Thank you very much. Bye.